and formally start the webinar. Again, my name is Steve Miller, Virtual Events Team of SIETAR Europa. I am very pleased to present Alicia Partee today. Music has always been a really big part of my life, or a powerful influence on my life. I really admire anyone who is musically inclined, and anytime I hear words like harmony that are associated with music, it grabs my attention. I'm really looking forward to hearing what Alicia has to present to us today in the area of finding or rediscovering the rhythm and the harmony in our own lives. With that, so that Alicia has all the time in the world, I am going to turn it over to her and let the webinar begin. Alicia, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. And hello, everyone, and thank you for being here with us on this webinar to talk about harmony, the harmony of our life. I am excited to be here with you. I won't spend any time talking about who I am because I think it's in the information with the webinar, so we're going to jump right in. And I want to start actually with a question. Let's see if you can raise those hands. How many of you are currently living abroad? Can you raise your hand if you're currently living abroad? And I don't think I can see the hand, so I think Steve,
okay.
Yeah.
So far, 4 people have raised their hand. 5.
Okay. The good part about harmony is whether you live abroad or not, I do believe it's something that you can actually get out of this. But some of the motivation of why I started it has to do with the fact that I have moved abroad and some of the things that have transpired, which you'll hear a little bit more about as we go through the program. Let's talk about the objectives for today. Usually, harmony is actually a 5-week course that usually happens face-to-face, even though we do have an interactive webinar that we are launching. But the objectives today, so since we can't go through all the material, or actually go deep into all the material, one of the things you'll get is an overview of the material and understand why harmony is important and how you can actually utilize the material even where you are in your life. So that's what we're going to do. If there's something else that you'd like to get out of the workshop today, feel free to type it in the chat box and it will be relayed to me and we will see if that's something that we can include. So please share. And also you can type in the chat box if you have an aha moment or something you want to share, and at an appropriate time we'll see how we can handle that. Okay? So why harmony? You know, I remember crying a couple of times in my life. One is when I got married, though they were happy tears. And also when I moved, about 2 years after moving abroad. I still remember the day that my husband actually asked me if I would follow him abroad as what we call a trailing spouse, and I was really excited about it. Many people, including him and his friends, oh, you're not going to have any problems adjusting. You worked in technology for 20 years, and you've moved around, and you even went back to school and became a licensed marriage and family therapist in California. So you're used to change. So when you go abroad, you should have no problem. Well, they were wrong. About 2 years into it, I remember waking up one day, looking in a mirror, asking myself, who am I? I came to the country excited about it, still excited, love Norway, woot woot for Norway, but had to come and learn the language, so you dive into it, you want to fit in and get a job, and I remember, getting advice, oh, we do it different here. You have to take off all these extra things in your LinkedIn profile because LinkedIn is important here. And it looks like you worked in technology and psychology and you have all these things behind you. Pick one. And so here I am adjusting my LinkedIn profile to try to make it fit. Oh, and take out the fact that you were a pastor. That, they're not going to like that here. Take that out. So all these things I'm shifting to pick one thing. And at that time, I chose project manager for in technology because I thought it would be just simple to get a job. And And that actually triggered the morning I woke up, and I'm like, oh my God, if you were a friend that knew me long ago, you would look at my profile and say, who is this? She's done so many more things in this. And I just wasn't ready for that part, and even the emotional part. Not that I didn't love where I was, but the fact that things were different. People I loved were left behind, and things like that. And so that's what started Harmony. It was my journey to kind of rediscover who I was, and for me to be okay with being me, even living abroad. And it started with me actually waking up the next morning, and I was like, you know what? I put everything back on my LinkedIn profile. It's a little bit different than it was before. I wish I would have taken a picture, but I was like, I am going to be me. So the beginning of this particular journey, I had to say, okay, well, what does success mean for me? Is success me coming and assimilating, which means, becoming, just part of what's here, not bringing anything that's unique about me? Or what was success for me? And of course, we all know that word success, and it means so many different things in so many different situations. And so, of course, we can think of the obvious people, Michelle Obama, just various people that you see there on the screen. And I'm sure you can even add to this list. But if we go beyond the obvious, what does success look like? And I remember thinking of my aunt, who was one of the first airplane mechanics. Back then it was called TWA, and they changed name, and she actually ended up retiring from United Airlines, and she was one of the only females in that area. And I remember that, and I remember her saying the first time she got another female to train to be an airline mechanic, that was success. Or I remember my grandfather would take the time and sit down and practically explain things to me and empower me to be who I was. And I saw how, he showed me that hard work could pay off, and that was success. Or my boss, I had a great boss when I worked for one of the companies, who taught me, never worry about your title. Always get the job that you love to do. And the title and all those things will follow. That carried with me. I mean, so these people were success. They all gave something to society or to me that made me who I am today. And so I wanted to stop for a moment and have you think about, what does success mean to you? So take a moment, and if you have a definition, I want you to write it in the chat box. I want you to, write it in the chat box so we can share it. What are some examples? Think about people that have been successful in your life, and share with us a definition of success. I'll give you, let's take a couple minutes.
Okay, they're starting to come in.
Okay.
Starting off with Harmony.
Okay.
Another one, do what I love and have positive impact on others with passion.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
Success is accomplishing my personal goals at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
Success is balance.
Yes.
Making a good living with what I do and loving it.
Mm-hmm. And loving it. I like that. Mm-hmm.
Happiness and gratitude, overcoming my ego.
Yes.
Success means being your authentic self, also about working in an area that you find meaningful, having a positive impact.
Yes.
Making a difference.
I love all these definitions, and I think they're all great, and it just shows you just how unique success is. And I think, does some more pop in? I see it blinking.
Yep. Having a balance in my life, allowing, living my purpose, having family and friends around, enjoying to be with myself and with others.
Yes.
Success is daring to push beyond my limits and mastering those hurdles.
Yes. Well, that's great, you guys. I think those are all wonderful definitions of success. And again, like I said, it just shows just how unique we are. And it's interesting because I have to say that for success is a journey. Here for this particular session, we're going to say living your authentic self, or just living intentionally. A lot of what you guys said embrace just this, and just, it's interesting because when I think about success when I was 20, at 20, what was success for me was climbing a corporate ladder, and how, I was a manager during the .com era. I actually dye my hair. I'm a little older than I look, maybe. But I remember I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. I wanted stocks and shares and all those things. And so I just want to, when you think of success, it's okay. It's not static. It's dynamic. And I think as you grow and you learn and you change, that your definition of what success is will grow and change as well. And I am trying to move my screen forward. Okay. Let's see. There we go. So we are going to kick off with the first thing, or the first week that we would normally take with Harmony, and do an overview of the composer, which talks about the heart. And actually, just to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the heart, the composer, the choir, which we will look at talent, strengths, personality, musicians, melody, and a couple other things, and kind of sum up with what your harmony may look like at the end. And again, just giving you a taste of what we would go through in the workshop. So heart, we all know heart, what we're actually passionate about. We know heart is the organ that, moves our blood through our body. And it's also to the center, the innermost part of who we are, our thoughts and our emotions. You know how you can say, oh, my grandfather was the heart of the family, or, oh, they're the heart of the organization. We know what that means. But here we're going to talk about the passions, the things that we absolutely love, what makes our heart patter. There's just some things we naturally love to do and some things that we just don't like to do. And all those things are important when we talk about harmony. And I would say one of the ways that I've learned, there's many ways that you can kind of look at the themes of your heart, but I love to do it with the life map. With a life map, if you have pen and paper, it would be great to have it by you. So I should have said that at the beginning, but if not, it's okay. This will be recorded and you'll have a chance to come back. But what I would do first, even if you didn't want to do a life map, but at the bottom of a page, I would put, starting with your earliest memory, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, maybe go every 5 years. And I would list out those things, those accomplishments, those things that I remember that were significant in your life. And normally on a life map, we would put highs and lows, but when we're looking for the heart, I just want the highs. So for example, I remember when I was 10 years old, about 10, I could have been a little bit older. We had this candy. It was called like an apple stick. And it was this candy was, when I think about it, oh my God, the things we used to eat. It was this hard candy that tasted like apple that you can put in your mouth. Jolly Rancher made it, and you can suck on it and it would disappear. And then of course we had these suckers that we had, and they were Tootsie Roll suckers. There was some hard candy on it, and in the inside there was this little brown piece of candy that we can chew. And I remember from an early age, I'm still very proud of it. Me and my friends, we figured out how to make money, right? So we took these sticks, melted them down, wrapped them around the sucker, and we could sell them at a higher price and make a profit. So that was one of the accomplishments, one of the things I loved when I was younger. And when I started looking, and I go, 15 years, what do I remember? Or it could be incremental, whatever, and I started looking, and I was able to trace a theme through my heart. I love creating new things. I love building on things that people never did. And of course, this is like I said, it takes time, but if you wrote those things down, look at those themes. You can kind of tell what you're passionate about. And it gives you an idea of those, of just what you love to do naturally. A lot of times we don't think about it because we just do it. And when you're doing this, when you write these things down, I really don't want you to think about anything else but those things that made you excited, the things that you remember, not because someone else said, oh yeah, that was great when you did that, but because you felt really, really good about it, and it's an accomplishment. So I would challenge you. We probably don't have so much time to do that now, but I'm going to just give you 1 minute to think about, just to get you going, and so that you can do this exercise outside the webinar. If you pick any age and just write down that thing that you'd be like, you know what, no one ever said anything, but I'm really happy. I'm really excited and remembering this part of my life, and it made me feel really accomplished. Take a minute and just write one thing down, so later when you're doing this, you could reflect on it. And I'll put a timer on. And if anybody wants to share a story, I'd love to hear some of the passion stories. If something that you'd like to share with someone, please speak up and share your story. We'll use it maybe as we go throughout the program. If you have something that you can think about or share.
Yeah, so if you would like to share, just raise your hand. And Alicia, we're getting several comments. Love that, love this. They're enjoying it.
Good, thank you guys, I'm glad. Thank you. Okay, let's, so that's where you would write it down. But let's go on. Unless there's somebody that wants to share, we'll just move on. Just raise your hand if you do, and I can be interrupted. The next part that I like is called the choir. And the reason I called it that, because I feel like that these things have to work together, because you can have a passion for something, and it doesn't mean that it's a strength and ability or that it goes with your personality. And so I'm going to start the video in just a moment, give us a chance to turn off the recording, just so for copyright reasons. Us that though we have a passion, for example, I have a passion to sing. I wish my husband was here, he would tell you, but I probably sound like the goat closer to the end of the commercial, even though I think I sound like the beginning of the commercial. And so just because you have a passion does not mean you should be doing it. And so this next part, the choir, it takes a look at the things that matter, that could help direct us as we go through this, those strengths and talents and abilities. And I'm actually going to start with a story that you guys may have heard before. It's a short story. It's called The Animal School. And it says, the animals had a school. The curriculum consisted of running, climbing, flying, and swimming. All the animals took all subjects. The duck was good at swimming and fair at flying, but was terrible in running. So he was made to drop swimming class and stay after school to practice running. He kept this up until he was only an average swimmer, but average was acceptable. He was still bad at running though. The others, including the teacher, were no longer threatened by the duck's swimming ability, so everyone felt more comfortable except the duck. The eagle was considered a problem student. For instance, in climbing class, he could beat all the others to the top of the tree, but he insisted on using his own method to get there, flying all the way to the top. He had to be severely disciplined. And finally, because of his lack of cooperation in swimming, he was expelled for insubordination. The rabbit started at the top of the class in running, but obviously was inadequate in other areas. Because of this, he had to make up swimming. He had a nervous breakdown and had to drop out of school. The turtle was a failure in most every course offered. His shell was thought to be the leading cause of his failure, so they removed it. This did help him with running a bit, but sadly, he became the first casualty when he was stepped on by the horse. Here's a summary. I guess you guys know. The faculty was disappointed, but all in all, it was a good school of humility. There were no real successes. None seemed to measure up to the others, but they did concentrate on the weak points, and some progress was made. I think you get the point here. Isn't it interesting that instead of focusing on our strengths, that we tend to focus on the things that our opportunity areas are just weaknesses. I'm guilty of it. I have 3 boys, and I have 3 wonderful stepchildren as well. And I remember when they would bring a report card home, I overlooked the A's. Oh, great job, okay. But if something was a B or a C or even something else, that's what I would focus on. Instead of telling them, oh my God, I see that you're gifted in this area and that area, I should nurture that. I focused on improving where they weren't so good. Not saying that you shouldn't, but I even do it to myself. I focused on, oh gosh, okay, so I can do this things well, but this one thing I can't do well, let me figure out how to do that. I don't make pie crust well, but I do cook a pretty good dinner, but I spend all my time trying to make a pie crust instead of just going to the store and buying it. My point is, we should focus on what makes us stand out. What are our strengths? And have the opportunity to develop those strengths are amazing. So when you choose things that can amplify what your natural talent is, I think that's a great opportunity. And we say that strength is the amplifier of natural talents and abilities. There are some things that you're just good at. You know it because other people say, gosh, how do you do that? And you're like, that's nothing. Because maybe it's natural. So could you imagine this natural talent, and if you invested in that, how much strength that would be? That would be great. So you could have the natural ability maybe to sing, but what if you never sang? Or the natural ability to work with computers or your hands, but what if you never use them? So of course, when we're young, we have to focus on those areas that we need to shore up as well. But why don't we focus more on the areas where we're strong, that shows as a strength? It's interesting because sometimes you have to remember that with talents, there are blind spots. And this is another way you can kind of tell what you're naturally talented at. I remember one time, because when I was a project manager, and I could implement projects really well. And I remember someone said, oh yeah, you can implement anything, but you leave a lot of collateral damage. And so what I had to remember, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, is okay, this is a strength, but people are different. And I have to understand that just because it's my strength, it's not someone else's. So there's some blind spots, but those blind spots, you can deal with, but focus on building yourself up. Invest in the things that you do well. If you haven't done this before, you can do it now. For example, if you write your name with your opposite hand, and if you happen to be ambidextrous, then write it with your mouth, because I do. My husband is actually. My point is, it's uncomfortable when we do things that are not a part of our strength. But do we spend times trying to figure out how to do it? I'm right-handed. I'm not going to take a long time to figure out how to write with my left hand too. So what if we changed it? Even with our children, even with the people around us, encourage them to really go after those things that they're strong at. I see some of the boxes popping up. I'd like to stop and hear any comments or questions that you may have, or thoughts.
What you're getting, Alicia, is a lot of yes,
okay,
yes,
okay.
I got that. And there's also, I love the focus on what makes you unique, which is opposite to what society silently saying is correct.
Absolutely. And that's the interesting thing is society may want to silence that, but it's the very thing that society needs to answer some of the problems that are out there. We are better together. And I think Rick Warren used this a long time ago, like the body, if I stub my toe or my finger, let's say I hit my finger and it hurts really bad. My mouth is going to take care of my finger because my body cares about the finger too. And it's just like together we are so better. But all can't be fingers. All can't be ears and eyes. We need each other. And I need you and you need me and I need your strengths and your passion, and together we can make a difference. And that's how I feel about that. So I'm gonna.
Alicia,
Yes.
we have a question here. What are some questions to ask ourselves when trying to discover our strengths?
That's a good question. So in the class, the one thing that I have found that works really well is Strength Finder. It's one of the best. It's a Gallup Strength Finder. Of course, you could kind of look at the things or ask someone else the things that you kind of do naturally that people go, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you manage that, or that's just amazing. Or you can use the Strength Finder. We actually use that in this course. It's a book that goes with it. It's absolutely excellent. And it's something that you can take with you throughout your journey. So that's one opportunity, I think, to get strength, look at your strengths. I would use Strength Finder. And you can, I think if you get it's a small book that's really inexpensive. The access to the actual inventory is free.
Yeah, I've done the Strength Finder, and it really was enlightening.
Yes, very enlightening. And it's enlightening, and it just makes so much sense. When it's, of course I did it later in life, but you're like, oh, that's why I do that. So it's very interesting.
I know I often think, I wish I had heard this message a long time ago, instead of most of my life, my career, focusing on shoring up my weaknesses.
Yes.
Really leveraging my strengths.
Yes. Same here. And that's why I said it's a journey, because, there are times in our life that we do have to do those things that are not in harmony with who we are, but it usually is a stepping stone, which we actually talk about, to get us to where we're going. So personality, I won't spend a lot of time on personality. You can many of you may have taken the Myers-Briggs. There's another one online called 16 Personalities. You can do 16personalities.com. But it is important to understand who you are and your personality. It's one thing to have the passion for something. Let's say you had the sales. For me, I was innovative in sales, right? And so having suckers, making those little suckers and selling them for a profit, nurture that. And I was able to nurture that and continue to do entrepreneurial things throughout my life. But I'm actually an introvert. I remember I tried to take a sales job for a couple of months. Oh my God. I would go to work in the sales department. It was actually face-to-face sales. It was the most draining job. I was so miserable because my passion is to build things and maybe make a profit, and I have this ability to sell, I recharge by myself. I loved being by myself, and being out was just too much for me. Now, of course, personality is not an exact science. We usually fall on some type of continuum, but it's really good to have insight to who you are. For example, if you're going, this really helps me on my teams too, when I work with teams. I actually do ask my teams, and Norway is really big on this. Sometimes before they hire you, they actually ask you to take personality tests. But it kind of does give insight. For example, on the board that I'm on, if I have a feeler, someone with a feeling, they're on the feeling side more so than a thinking side, which again is not an exact science. They're probably someplace in the middle. But I spend more time, sharing who I am, introducing myself, and being a lot more personal than than I probably would with a pure thinker, which is like me. And again, I don't want to go. This is not a personality class, so I don't want to go much into it. But I do think that it's worth you looking into it. And if I had an advice for you on the personalities, is at the end, take your letters or whatever the inventory, and I say inventory because these things are not tests, they're inventories. They're not exact, and it's not a test, and it's not good or bad. This is just information to help you make decisions. And so take that and look up the strengths for that personality type and the weaknesses, just to understand those type of things. It could give you some insight. But what I like to ask you, with just what was delivered so far, what do you think about the following statement? You cannot be anything you want to be, but you can be a lot more of who you already are. Let's take a moment and think on that and tell me what you think about that.
We have a yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Great statement. Makes me want to go within first and find out.
Mm. To one person that said yes and one person said no, would you like to open your mic and comment?
So it's actually one person that said yes and no.
Okay. Do you want to comment at all?
We have a hand raised. Just a moment.
Okay.
Bettina, I am going to open your mic. You should be live now. Maybe you are muted.
Yeah, she looks muted.
Hello, does it work? Is it?
Yes. Hi, Bettina.
Hi. What I meant, I was about to type the rest of it. What I meant is I would not want to limit someone with a specific dream by saying you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think if we set our mind to something, we can do a lot more of what we think we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And we might reach the unthinkable. I do think, and that's the no, you might be better at some things and not so good at others.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think you're right. And I definitely would never use this with someone else. This is definitely a statement for you to think about yourself. And I'll give you a great example. For example, for me, actually, if I could do any job I wanted to do when I was younger, I actually really wanted to be an FBI agent. But I only have 40% of my vision. And I absolutely could. So though I had the passion and maybe I couldn't, they wouldn't even allow me to work in information technology without a corrected 2020. So I think when I look at myself, as long as I'm not projecting this on someone else, just like you said, I would never want to limit. I think this is a self-discovery tool and we should not ever limit anybody. But when it comes to myself, it's good for me to know that I'll probably never be an opera singer and I will never be an FBI agent, no matter how hard I try. Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah. But your point, well taken, and thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have anything you'd like to share?
We've got some comments in chat here. Just a moment. I'm going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom is not my strength. Okay. I don't like to be self-limiting, but I do agree that there are some things I can't do.
Yes, I agree. Never limit
Yeah, that
yourself.
was the other comment. I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Never limit I don't limit myself. I have low vision. I was born with something called nystagmus, and glasses don't correct my vision. And when I was younger, I was told I couldn't do a whole lot of things, and I did them. I drove cars, probably shouldn't have. I didn't know that back then. I did everything that I wanted to do. So never let yourself. But now, understanding my vision, then I choose, because of this, for the safety of others, to not drive and some other things. So my point is absolutely never limit yourself, but be reasonable about what you do and do some self-checks every now and then to make sure that you're utilizing who you are, your strengths, your personality, as much as you possibly can. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Just a moment.
Sure.
It builds upon the Greek arete, to live up to your own potential. The better you know it, the better for you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I like that. So the next part, I call it the musicians. And I like to call it the musicians because I think it's the different players in our life. that actually impact this part. It's our experiences and the insight that we gain from experiences. And it's our journey that actually teaches us about our destination. And sometimes, you know, they talk about data being the new currency. And yeah, we talk about it when it comes to innovation and tech and things like that. But data in your life is invaluable. Whether it's from your experiences that you remember, whether it's sitting down talking with others in your family and getting history, all these things actually matter. And so usually in the course, we actually go through different experiences from education, volunteer, spiritual journeys, what things that made you happy, things that were hurtful. We look at all of them, and I like to call them game changers. The things in our life, the moments in our life when we knew that something would never be the same, that revealed something that would never be the same. Whether it's happy, like I said, it could be you got your dream job. It could be sad. Maybe it was a divorce. Maybe you had twins or a child. Maybe you had, a miscarriage. And what I'm saying is that every single experience that we had, even the day I woke up crying in a mirror, can be used to help us live authentically. You know, who better to help someone that's going through, who better to help someone, you know, that has moved abroad and went through the ups and downs than someone who's experienced it? Who better to help someone figure out, you know, how to overcome an obstacle than someone that actually been through that? And so, you know, we can use our experiences, good, bad, or ugly, to move us towards living intentionally. And this one, I would actually use the life map. I won't go back to it because I'm not that good at Zoom either. This is where if you use the life map, you can add the ups and downs in life. For example, you know, and then you can map the trends, I'll say. So you can look through all these experiences, like I said, whatever experience you had that you feel is significant, put it on your life map, see what the theme is, and see how this can empower you to live authentically, whether it's helping others, whether it's being authentic to the experiences that you had. I had a lady who I was seeing, and she had postpartum depression, quite severe. And, you know, years after, she was able to go back and start a group for postpartum depression. Now, it doesn't always end up that simple, but my point is we can use every single bit of who we are and where we've been to be who we are and to live intentionally. Any questions about game changers? Any thoughts about game changers? And usually I'll say in these courses, honestly, the life map, and to get people to think about their experiences, believe it or not, it takes a lot of work. Usually I pair you up, because a lot of times when we think about our accomplishments or the game changers in our life, it's really hard to pull out those things. And so I'm just going to challenge you to take this and really think about it over some days. This is not a quick list, nothing you do in 5 minutes. Think about it, talk about it, and really put something down and see what the trend is. So before we get to your melody, I'd like to talk about togetherness. And I wrote here, wounds from a friend or a mentor or leader are better than many kisses of an enemy. And I say this because, of course, we want our cheerleaders around us. Woo, those people that believe in us and want us to do good. Absolutely, we want them around. But we want those people that also tell us those hard things, those things that maybe cut for a little while, but makes us a better person. I shared a story earlier about my mentor who actually set me down. I had just implemented a project that increased membership, that increased money, the amount of income that was coming in, and that people loved. I was feeling really proud that day. So I'm sitting down waiting for my feedback, and he says, yeah, you implemented that project well, but you left a lot of collateral damage. And it crushed me. I mean, literally, guys, when I left his office, it was a guy, I actually cried, because because it was my strength, because it was something I was passionate about and I believed what I was doing, I did it. But I forgot to look at the people around me. So when I finished the project and I look up and look back, there's a lot of dead people behind me, not literally dead, but I forgot about them. I didn't. And so I needed these people outside of me. Like I said, those that are positive, that will say, great job, and those that say, no, you need to do something different, because yes, this was great, but don't forget the people. Or yes, this was great, but practice your singing. Or I can't sing, but yes, this is great, but this. And we need that. We weren't meant to do life alone. We need each other. And so I would just challenge you to do this. And I don't know if you guys recognize these pictures. The one on the left is from The Wiz, and the one on the right is from The Wizard of Oz. And they have a story of 3 people, one looking for a brain, another for a heart, one for courage, and one to go home. And if you guys remember, if you haven't seen the story, I'm sure you can find it online. They're very old. That's Michael Jackson as the scarecrow with the Reese's peanut butter cup on his nose. And so I love stories like this, because what it reminded me is, in the story, at the end of the story, all Dorothy, the female there, had to do was click her heels and she would be home. Everything that she needed was already inside of her, along with everyone there. If you guys remember the scarecrow, he wanted a brain, but it was already there. He had all this knowledge in his head and he didn't even realize it. And the Tin Man wanted a heart, but he cared so much about his friends that he had already demonstrated that he had a heart. And the lion, courage, of course he should be courageous. He stood up for his friends throughout, in this movie. And at the end, they were looking for this magical place and for this person to give them all this. His name was Oz, and he was a fraud. And it took them understanding that everything that they needed, they already had and was inside of them. And I think for me, this just reminded me that it's our passion, it's our strengths, it's our talents, it's our abilities, it's our experiences, it's the people that are around us, that are like our map. It's inside of us. We sometimes just don't take the time. We listen to society, we're taking things in instead of pulling it out, and it's in us. And so that's what that part is. And so I wanted to end with this, and I don't know, I do want to give a few minutes for this, which is why, because I want to come back and talk about it. So our last part will be a little interactive. Take a moment, and if you had to, and some of you may not be able to do this right now, and it's okay if you can't, but if you can, once we finish the Harmony 5-week workshop, we usually can come up with a statement that helps us to filter decisions that we make about our life, what we choose to do and what we don't do. So for example, you can use the top format that says I blank so that blank. So for example, my example was I build bridges so that people can reach their destiny or something. But really, I actually do build bridges, but I build them to connect people so that they can have the resources they need to overcome obstacles. Or you can use the bottom where it says, my purpose is to, and here, my purpose is to inspire people to live life authentically. And these are not meant to be catch-alls. These are not remedies. These are things that, again, are dynamic, not static. But what it has helped me do while I'm in Norway is, before I consider volunteering or being on a board or starting a business or a job, especially, I think about it. Is this going to allow me to use my strength? Am I going to get, are they going to invest in my strengths? Am I going to be able to build bridges? I know I love that. So is this going to be new and things? So I'm able to filter it. So even if I still choose to do it, I understand what part of me will be engaged and what part will not. Doesn't mean I don't go for it. It just means I can make better decisions because I've taken the time to look at the map inside of me. So on this one, I'm going to put a timer on, but I'm going to give you, if you don't, about 3 minutes. I'll check in 3 minutes. And during this 3 minutes, if you have questions or anything, just raise your hand and we can open your mic. And those of you that if you'd like to take a stab at writing a statement, go ahead and do that as well. And I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes. And I think that first of all, it has to be adapted to different cultures, but we should keep adding to it. So if you have something different, please share, and I could add it to this, because I do think we have to look at it from different angles. I agree.
And we do have some I statements. I inspire imagination and creativity so that people can become the creators of their own lives.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Any others? We have a little less than a minute. Okay, we can come back together then. So these are just some ways. And again, I think the point is, you don't have to have a statement. Like I said, it could be more of being aware of who you are. What makes you tick? What makes you thrive? And these are things I would like to be able to open a mic on. How does this information help you better understand your unique strengths and talents? And you can answer any one of these. How can you use this understanding to add value to your life? How can it help you make decisions in the future? And would you do anything differently after this seminar? So if you guys could please comment and share.
So yeah, please go ahead, either raise your hand or type into chat. So some more I statements are coming through.
Sure. Feel free to share too.
I build up a network of expatriates in Rostock so that they can feel at ease abroad.
Yes.
I encourage people to share their stories so that they feel empowered to live their desired life.
Sounds like some incredible people on the call.
There are, definitely. I create programs so that people in corporate organizations can stay human beings whilst being the human resources and human capital a company relies on.
Wow, incredible. Anybody want to open their mic and respond to any of these questions? I think we have okay.
We have a hand raised. Audrey, I am going to open your mic. If you unmute yourself, then you may address us.
Hello, Alicia. It's Audrey from Munich. How are you doing?
Huh? I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Just a simple question, because I was stuck for the first 30 minutes. If you are recording this webinar, that I can replay the part I missed. That's just the question I had. Sorry for jumping in the call.
No, that's okay. Yes, but we are recording it, so you will be able
Wonderful. That's great.
Yes. Thanks.
Would anyone else like to respond to any of these questions here? No further hands.
So what I wanted to do is I'm going to end it if there's no further hands. And here's information on if you can follow us. I guess I didn't put a lot of information. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, I wanted to share a new project that we're doing with you guys. I thought I'd take a moment and show
Imagine your employee John is relocating from Brazil to Norway on a one-year assignment. With his network of colleagues, he begins to adapt rather quickly, but his wife is struggling with the transition. The situation at home gets worse, and you notice a decrease in John's performance. You hear that they are thinking of moving back to Brazil just after 4 months on the job. What will you do? What will it cost the company? Companies lose millions each year on the invisible costs of incomplete or failed international assignments. 75% of employees consider leaving their overseas assignments early, and the #1 reason is difficulty with the common struggles of transition. This is where I can help. We offer solutions to help companies support their employees and family members with the emotional effects of transition, allowing companies to retain key talent like John. Our data-driven, human-centered platform predicts problems and provides customized solutions that puts the tools to thrive abroad in the hands of your employees and their families. Working abroad is no longer just a career path, but an experience with emotional well-being as a critical part of assignment success. Let me customize an affordable offer for you, allowing you to save millions and to create a culture of well-being in your global mobility strategy. Now that's something to brag about. E-Transition, powered by Global Counseling Solutions AS. Visit our...
The reason I wanted to share that with you, because the day that I woke up crying in a mirror, figuring out what I was or who I was in Norway and who I needed to be, and going through the process of finding myself again, led to me launching Global Counseling Solutions, and now me creating a program, a technology that can help people thrive abroad and giving access globally to this type of thing. And I would not have done that if I didn't have that moment of that breakthrough moment, and if I didn't kind of go through this process again and take a risk of being everything, all of me, authentically in Norway. And so that's how this was birthed. So I really appreciate you guys participating. My email addresses are here. We're still working on a website. I'm actually relaunching. Stay tuned for that, something really exciting. But the point is, I wanted you guys to know this is a result of me living authentically. So I finally feel like I'm using every bit of my experience, every bit of my education and passion, and I am doing what I love. So whether I make a penny, I'm fine, because I'm happy. So thank you guys very much for your time, and email me if you want to participate in a 5-week course. We'll figure out how to make that happen. And thanks a lot.
Alicia, thank you so much for sharing part of your journey, your story, your melody with us today. The webinar coordinator, scheduler, when she saw your proposal, she said, that's the one we're going to do in January. It's inspiring, it's inspirational, it's a great way to kick the year off. And you delivered. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And you're getting lots of thank yous in the chat. Really, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am going to, before we close, I'm going to launch a quick feedback poll. If those in the audience would take a moment to complete the feedback, we'd much appreciate that, so that we can make sure that we are offering you what you're looking for. And I will also invite you to consider attending our next webinar, which is on Tuesday, the 5th of February at 4 p.m. Central European Time. It is Focus on India, or Spotlight on India. So be looking for the announcement on that. You can also check out the webinar page on the SIETAR EU website. And with that, I will again say thank you, and I will bid everyone a wonderful rest of the day.
Yes, thanks everybody. Stay in touch. I hope to meet you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.